Good morning. Today's daf yomi is Kesubos 104. Kesubos. Sorry about that. Actually, today's daf yomi is Kesubos 105. Kesubos Kuf Hey 105. But we're going to start on the bottom of Kuf Dalad Amud Beis at the new chapter, the last chapter of Maseches Kesubos, the chapter that begins with Shnei Dayane. So it says the Mishnah, Shnei Dayane Gezeros Hayu B'Yerushalayim. There were two judges of Gezeros, of decrees in Jerusalem, and their names were Admon and Hanan ben Avi Shalom. Hanan and Avi Shalom. And Tosfos points out, Rabbeinu Tam had this version of Avi Shalom and not as Avshalom, because Avshalom was wicked and he has no share in the world to come. So therefore, this person was Hanan, the son of Avishalom. Hanan Omer Shnei Dvarim. Hanan taught two things, and Admon Omer Shiva. And Admon taught seven things. What were the two things that Admon taught, in which he argued with the sages? The two things were as follows. A, Misha Halach Medina Sayam. Somebody who went overseas, V'ishto Tovas Mizonos, and the wife is requesting support as she's entitled to because she's married to him. So he went overseas and she's back and she requests support because she's married to him. Hanan Omer, Hanan's of the position, Tishava Besof Velo Tishava Betchila. Hanan is of the position that she has to take an oath only when she hears that he died, and then she comes to collect the ksuva, then she has to take an oath that she didn't take the money already. But she doesn't have to take the money at the outset when she comes to collect the mizonos, the ongoing support. That's Hanan's position. But Nechaku Alav B'nei Kohanim Gedolim, but this group of holy people, the sons of the Kohanim Gedolim, they argued and they said Tishava b'tchila uvesof, that she has to take an oath at the beginning and also at the conclusion. Amar Rabbi Dosa ben Horkanis kidivrehem. Rabbi Dosa ben Horkanis ruled like the Bnei Kohanim Gedolim, whereas Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai Yafa Amar Hanan o Tishava uvesof. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai praised the words of Hanan ben Avi Shalom because he said you should only take the oath at the end and not at the outset. So first of all, the Gemara raises the question, Viramini, is this really accurate? We have a contradictory source that states Shlosha Dayane Gezeros Hayu B'Yerushalayim. Not that there were two Dayane Gezeros, not that there were two Dayane judges of decrees, but there were three judges of theft in Jerusalem. And who were these? These judges were Admon ben Gidai, Hanan Mitzri, and Hanan ben Avi Shalom. So these three judges were Hanan Mitzri, Admon, and Hanan ben Avi Shalom. And so Kasha Tlasa train. So we have a question because in our Mishnah we said there were two judges, and here we say there were three. And also Kasha and Gezeros and Gezeros. In our Mishnah we said that they were decrees, and here we say that they were judges over theft. Tosfos asked the question, the obvious question, well, exactly. Vim Tomer Adarabba, I Gezela Ugzera, Tre Milininu, Toasa Tre Lokasha. He says, if the theft and the decrees are two separate things, then it's not a contradiction why one has three judges and one has two. And so that's the question, and Tosfos gives the answers, but it's Tosfos, and we're not going to go into the answer now, but it's very, the question assumes that they're not going to have this judge Hanan ben Avi Shalom really on two separate lists. He really would have had one job, not two, and so that's the basic answer. So the Gemara anyway goes back and says, how do we deal with this question? Well, Bishlam Atlas Atrain Lokasha. It's not going to be difficult. Why? One source says three and one source says two. Bishlam Atlas Atrain Lokasha, the Chashav way Katani, the Lo Chashav way Lo Katani, because the answer is the distinguished amongst them, they mentioned, and that's why they mentioned Hanan ben Abi Shalom and Admon, but the one who was less distinguished, he didn't mention in our Mishnah, Hanan Mitzri. So that's why they didn't mention him in our Mishnah. And El Gzeros Exelos Kasha. So what about decrees versus theft? How do we deal with that contradiction? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Shayu Gozer and Gezeros al Gezeros. It means that they used to make decrees upon theft. Gozer and Gezeros al Gezeros. They would make decrees on theft. Because Tanya, as we learned in the Brisa, Kitma Nitiya, let's say somebody chopped down a sapling. Rabbi Yossi Omer Gozer Gezero Shabir Omer Nitiya Bas Shenasa Shtei Kesef. So Rabbi Yossi said those who made decrees in Jerusalem said that a Nitiya that was 1 year old you had to pay 2 silver coins. Bas Shtei Shanim, but if it was 2 years old, and you chopped it down, you had to pay Arba Kesef, 4 silver coins. So that was the answer, that they made a decree about those who stole. So the Gemara says, but we have another contradiction to that. Admon v'Chanan v'Nachum. So, but we have a different source which says that there were 3 judges of decrees in Jerusalem: Admon, Chanan, and Nachum. And Amar Papa, Man, Tana, Nachum, who is the one who brought in Nachum and not Hanan and Mitzri in this source. This was Rabbi Nassan. The Tanya Rabbi Nassan, Omer, Af Nachum Amadi, Migozrik Zera Shabir Shalim Haya. Lo Hodu, Lo Chachamim. So he says that he was also, Rabbi Nassan also has Nachum Amadi, who was amongst those who was making decrees in Jerusalem, but the sages did not agree with it. V'suek, are these the only people? V'amar Rav Rabbi Pinchas, Amar Rabbi Yoshaya, Shalosh Meos V'Tishin V'Arba Batei Din HaYerushalayim. That Rabbi Yoshaya thought there were 394 courts in Jerusalem, or judges in Jerusalem. And Kinegdam Batei Kinesios, to Kinegdam Batei Midrashos, to Kinegdam Batei Sofrim. And corresponding to these 394 judges in Jerusalem were synagogues, Batei Midrashos, and schools. And so why do you say there were only 3 or 4, depending how you count, or 2? Where it says, well, Dayan and Tuve Hava. So there were a lot of judges. And when we said 3, Agozre Gezeros coming. We're only talking about those who were so specialized or so distinguished that they were making the decrees. They were making the Gezeros. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi, Gozre Gezeros Shabir Shalayim. Those who made these decrees in Jerusalem were taking their reward, their payment, their salary, 99 mana they got from the Trumas Alishka. Every year, there would be donations that were made to bring sacrifices in the temple, and the new money that was collected had to pay for the new sacrifices only. And that was started from the 1st of Nisan, when you started paying from the Trumas Alishka of that year. But the extra money after the year was up, what did they do with it? So they said that they were paying these judges. And if they didn't want, they added on. So the Gemara assumes that we've read that and they said, oh, it's not enough. You think we're talking about wicked people and the temple offers them money? They say, no, we want more? That doesn't make sense. What it means is if it wasn't enough for them, then then even though they didn't want it, if it wasn't sufficient, and even if they didn't want to take more, we added on for them. That's what it means. Karna was a judge, have a shakil istira mizakai istri mechayev. He used to take this istira, the type of coin, from the innocent and from the guilty. He would take it from both parties. Vidanu Dina, and he would adjudicate the case. The Gemara says, how could Karna do that? It says in the verse, you cannot take a bribe. If you want to say, when can you not take a bribe? When you don't take it from both parties. Because then you might favor one of the parties. Karna, given the shakal mitra value, but Karna, since he took from both, then he's not going to favor anybody. If you want to say, well, that's why it's permitted for Karna to take the money from the litigants, it can't be. If you're not going to favor one of the litigants, do you think it's permitted? Vatanya, it says in the Brisa of Shochar, it says you're not allowed to take a bribe. What does it mean? If you want to say you can't take a bribe to favor the innocent or to make the innocent one guilty, or to favor the guilty, or judge harshly upon the innocent, it already says it already says in the verse that you're not allowed to. In that same verse, it says you're not allowed to avert to justice. So what does it mean you can't take a bribe? Even to make the innocent, or it's a guilty, you're not allowed to take a bribe. So if that's the case, how could Karna take money? So if that's the case, that's why it says that you can't, not even to make the innocent or the guilty, you can't take a bribe. So how did Karna take the money? So the Gemara says, well, when is it prohibited if you take the money as a bribe? Like Karna b'toras igra ave shekel. He took it as payment for his services. That's what he took it as. So the Gemara says, b'toras igra mishari, to take it as payment for your services, is it permitted? But we learned in the Mishnah, I know tel schar wadun. If somebody takes money to adjudicate a case, dina b'telim. I know tel schar wadun, dina b'telim. If somebody takes money to adjudicate a case, his judgment is canceled. So we see from here that you can't take money. So the Gemara says, well, hani mili agar dina. That's if you take payment for doing your judicial services, but this was a different story, because why was he taking the money? Hold on, I lost my place here. Karna agar b'tela v'shakel. Karna was taking the money not for his services, but for the money that he could have been making if he was doing his real job. Karna agar b'tela v'shakel. So that's called schar b'tola. Agar b'tela mishari. Is it really permitted to take such money? Vatanya, but didn't we learn in the Brisa? Mechura adayan, the cursed is the judge, and no tel schar wadun, who takes money for his judicial services. El shadino din, but it is considered a valid judgment. And now, hechidami, what's the case? Ilema agar dino din. If you're saying he's paid for his judicial services, would it really be a valid case there? If you take the money to judge a case, it's canceled. So it's referring to a case where you take the money for the work you could have done for yourself at that time. And we're still saying that the judge is cursed. So if that's the case, why did Karna take the money under these circumstances? The Gemara says, well, hani mili betela de muchacha. Well, it depends if there's schar batola is clearly evident. But Karna betela de muchacha v'shakel. Karna took money that was betela de muchacha v'shakel. Karna took the money that was muchacha. That was that it was clearer that he was getting schar batola for the work he otherwise would have done. Why? Because Karna had a real job. Because Karna's job was to go around smelling the wine, the fragrance of the wine. People used to pay him for that. He could tell if the wine was good or not. So therefore, if he would stop doing that, he'd be giving him money to take this judicial case. So therefore, you had to pay him for his lost wages. Like Rafuna, when a court case came before him, Amar Lahu, he would say to the people, you want me to judge your case? Bring me a guy who's going to start irrigating my fields for me instead of me, and then I'll judge your case because I've got work to do. So Rabbi Avo say, come and see how bribery blinds the eyes of somebody. Adam chash beinav. So if a person has a has a difficulty with their eye. No say mama or rofe. He pays a doctor. Suffolk misrape, Suffolk and misrape. It's not clear if he's healed or not. They notlin shava pruta, and they take in exchange for it money. So the judge, however, he just takes money, he just takes a penny and for sure blinds the eye. As it says, bribery blinds the eyes of those who see. Because bribery blinds the eyes of those who see. For sure it blinds the eyes of the foolish. And it averts the words of the righteous. For sure it does that to the wicked. So the Gemara, so we've just said, and for sure it blinds the eyes of the fools and averts the words of the righteous. For sure it does that to the wicked. So the Gemara says, but how could that possibly be? Or judges are fools and wicked ones, litigants? I mean, are they judges? So what's the Gemara telling us? The bribery will blind the eyes of the wise. Even if he's a very, very great wise man, if he takes a bribe, he's not going to depart from the world below Semius Alev. Before his lave here means his mind becomes blinded. And avers the words of the righteous. It distorts the words of the righteous. On the top of Kufay and Lebeis, a few tzaddik gamor, even if he's a very complete righteous man, and he takes a bribe, he's not going to depart from the world before he loses his ability to focus, his tiruf das. He's going to be all confused. Kiyasi Rav Dimi Amar Darash Rav Nachman Bar Kohen Ma'idach Sev Melch B'Mishpat Yamid Eretz Ish Trumos Yarsena. So when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said Melch B'Mishpat Yamid Eretz. What do we do with this verse from Mishlei, which says that a king with his judgment will keep the world standing, and a man who gives trumos will destroy it. Trumos is donation. So what does it mean? If the judge looks like a king that he doesn't need anything, Yamid Aretz, he's going to keep the world standing. But if he's like a Kohen, he's always going after the granaries, Yarsena. If he's going like a Kohen who's always like hustling for donations, then this judge is going to destroy the world. That's what he's saying. It looks like if he's always going after donations, he's going to destroy the world. So that's, you have to be careful that the judge doesn't look like a schnorrer. Amar Rabbi Bar Rav Shila, Hi Dayana Deshal Sheilta Pasal Meidan Dinai. So Rabbi Bar Rav Shila said, this judge who always goes around borrowing things, he's disqualified from being a judge. We only say that where the judge can't himself lend things out. But if he's able to lend things out in return, then there's no problem with him also borrowing things because he's going to have to also lend things out. Gemara says, "Aini, is this really the case?" Rava used to borrow things out from the house of Bar Mirion, even though they didn't borrow anything from him. So the Gemara answers, "Hasam lach shuvinhu hu debai." So no, that's the only reason why Rava borrowed from them was he was actually doing them a favor by borrowing from them, because the point was that sometimes when you accept a gift from somebody, that's a big honor. If it's a very adam chashuv to accept a gift from this person, it's a great honor, and that's what Rava was doing. Just by borrowing something from them, he was giving them honor. Amar Rava, my time at the shochta. So Rava asked the question, what's the reason for bribery? Meaning to say, if you're anyway going to make the person who's innocent, so what's the problem with taking a bribe to say, okay, now I'm going to rule he's innocent? So Rava explains, Kivin the Kabilesh Shuchta Mine Ikravale Daitele, because once you accept a bribe for somebody, then you're going to have what's called kiruv das. You're going to be considered like you're so close to them, and it's like you yourself. A person doesn't see their own faults. It's not always true, but this is what the Gemara says. A person, generally speaking, doesn't see your own faults. Sometimes some people are their own worst critics, but the Talmud has a principle, maybe you could see your own faults, but when it comes to a court case, you're more likely to see the other person's
why the other person in the game.
Yeah, okay, so that why you're more likely to see it appears also in Shabbos 119a that why you're more likely to see that the other person, the holes in the other person's case rather than the holes in your own case. My shochad, what does shochad mean? Shehuchad. Rashi says that it means that you're one, that the one who gives the bribe and the one who collects the bribe become one person. Others say it means shuchad is sharp. Like when you sharpen a knife, it's called chad, meaning to say that you're too quick to cut the law. Amar Papa, well, you're not allowed to judge a case for somebody who was merciful to him, not for somebody who hates. The Rachem way, because if the guy was nice to you, you're not going to see his mistakes. And the sunny way, and the one you hate, you're not going to see the reason why he's really innocent. So Amar Abaya, he says if there's a Torah scholar and the people in town are nice to him, it's not because if there's a Torah scholar and he's popular, it's not because he's such a good guy. By the way, I think about this Gemara a lot. If there's a young rabbi and the people in the city like him, it's not because he's such a good person. It's because he's politically correct. He doesn't rebuke them. He doesn't tell them their mistakes. So that's why Rabbi Yisrael Salanter used to teach a rabbi who's loved by everybody is not doing something right. The rabbi is not supposed to be loved by everybody. He's supposed to have some people who he gives it to them straight. And Amar Rava said Miresh. He also said a rabbi who's liked by nobody is not a mensch. So you need to have him in between. Amar Rava Miresh Amina Hani b'nei Mechuza Kul Rachmuli. At first, I used to say all these people of Mechuza, they all like me. Kivan Dayana. But then when I became their judge, I used to say, some of them like me, some of them hate me. Then I saw that the ones who I said, the one who I said was guilty today, was the next day was innocent. Those who like me will always like me. Those who hate me will always hate me. Meaning to say, I'm not trying to please everybody. I'm just trying to call it like balls and strikes. That's the point. So if the rabbi's trying to be popular, the rabbi's doing something wrong. Ton Rabbanan v'shochad lo tikach, I take a bribe. Einu tzarach omar shochin mamon. Not only a bribe of money are you not allowed to take. I feel shochad varm. Not even take a bribe of words. So if somebody says to the judge, "Oh, you're so handsome. Sorry, you can't be the judge anymore." I feel shochad varm nami aser. How do you know? That means the lo ksiv, it doesn't say betza lo tikach. It doesn't say money you cannot take. It says shochad, a bribe. What's an example of shochad varm? Bribes with words. Shmuel was once crossing over the bridge. A man came. He offered him a hand to help him up. And the man says to Shmuel, "What are you doing?" Or Shmuel says to him, "What do you do?" I'm like, Dina Isli. He said, "I have to go to a court case here." I'm like, Pasil no chaladina. So Shmuel said, "Guess what? I'm out. I can't be your judge." Amemer Dina. Amemer was sitting and judging a case. Parach Gadfar Reisha. Some dirt, some dust fell on his head. Also, a man came and removed it. So Amemer said to him, "What are you doing here?" Amrei Dina says, "I'm a litigant. I have to go to the judge." Amrei Pasil Chaladina. He says, "I can't be your judge." Somebody spit on the ground and it was in front of Marukva. There was some dirt on this, some spit on the ground in front of him. A man came along and covered it up. So Marukva said to him, What's your deal? What are you doing here? He says, I have a court case. I can't be your judge. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi have a regular risei that Maisule kol milei Shabbos kol malei Shabbos akanta the pere. So Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi, there he had a guy who used to work for him. It was called a sharecropper. As part of the deal, he had to bring him a basket of fruit every Friday. That was his food. It was Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi's food, which this guy had to bring him. But Yom Echad Aislei B'Hei. So one day he brought him on a Thursday. I'm like, "My shna inna." He says, "Why are you bringing it to me Thursday instead of Friday?" He said, "Dina Islay." So he said to Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, "Well, I have to go in front of you before the court." Mamina Agavurche Aisile Amar. I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I might as well bring it to you today because anyway, I have to go before you for the court." So lo kabel minei. So Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi didn't accept it. He said. I'm like, Pasil no chaladina. He said, I can't be your judge. So he said, I'm not able to be your judge. Osiv Zuza de Rabbanan. So Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi brought a pair of rabbis, and he said, these judges should be they'll judge your case. Meanwhile, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi was walking back and forth. Amar, and he heard the case. He said, He said, "Wow, I could really help out my sharecropper. He should be making this argument, this argument." Then he said to himself, Let the souls of those who accept bribes basically burst because I didn't even take anything. And if I took, it was my money. People accept bribes, look how much worse they are. Rishmol bar Elisha, very similar story. Rishmol bar Elisha, a man brought him the Reishis Agaz. Rashi tells us that when you shear your sheep, every year when you shear your sheep, you have to give to the Kohen 1/60th of the sheep that you're shearing. So Rishmol bar Elisha, he brought him the Reishis Agaz. He said, Me'echat. He said, "Where are you from?" He said, I'm from Midoch Puan. There's no Kohen for you to give the stuff in between. He says, "Yeah, but the thing is, I have a court case with you." I said, "I have a court case, so I figure I'll give you my sheep. I have to give it to a Kohen anyway, so you're a Kohen." So he said, "Nope, sorry, it's not going to work. I can't be your judge." So so he put Rabbi Shmuel bar Elisha put a pair of rabbis there, and they were judging him. So meanwhile he's walking back and forth. He said, I would make this argument. He was saying to himself, he said, those people who accept bribes, that their souls burst. He said, at first, I didn't take anything. If I took anything, it would be mine. And how much more so? And I was trying to find an argument in this man's favor. Those who actually take bribes, how much more so are they going to distort the case? Rav Anan, a man brought him a basket of Gildani de Begile, like a basket of small fish. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Dina Isli." He said, "I have a court case with you." So he says, "Lo kibel minay." Rav Anan didn't accept it. Pasil no chaladina. He said, "Not only that, I can no longer be your judge." So the guy said, "Dina demar ba'ina." Okay, granted, Dina demar ba'ina, but I granted that you don't want to be I don't want you to judge me, but at least accept this basket of fish. Because it's a mitzvah for me to bring bikurim, to bring the fruits to the temple in Jerusalem, to the Kohen. But now that there's no temple, we know that bringing the gifts to the Torah scholar is considered like you're bringing bikurim. So this is an interesting point. So how do we know that? Titania, we learned this out from the Brisa, because the Brisa says, "V'ish ba mibal shalisha v'yaveu isha kim lahem bikurim esrim lechem seor mekarmel betzikono." Now they brought to Elisha, they brought him lechem bikurim. It's called bread of bikurim, and Elisha was not a kohen. Elisha ochel bikurim. First of all, Elisha was not a kohen. Second of all, he was not in Jerusalem; he was in the Shomron. So how come and he was from the tribe of God. So why did he get the Bikurim? So he said, we see from here, if you bring a gift to a Torah scholar, it's like you're fulfilling the mitzvah of bringing Bikurim. So Rabbanan said, Kibue lo ba'inan, the akbil hashid the amrisli time on the kabilna. So Rabbanan said, okay, I wasn't going to accept it, but now that you gave me the reason, I'm going to accept it. But the story has a dark turn, and we're going to have to complete this story in tomorrow's daf. But for now, we say a big shkoyach getting back.